I've always been interested in what makes people tick, what people are feeling. I love reading a room. I love elevating people who sometimes don't necessarily have the type of personality or voice that I have. Um, it takes a certain type of female, I would say, to really embrace the challenges that come with being in the construction industry. I'm not going to pretend that it's been easy because it has not been. So I think that what really makes the companies that I've worked for successful is the people. So paying attention to how our people are doing, paying attention to how we can help them, how they can be developed, is really the secret sauce, I would say, at least in my experience. And I've been very fortunate to work for incredible organizations.
Welcome to Breaking Ground, Women in AEC Leadership podcast. This is the show that lifts the voices, journeys, and insights of women shaping the future of architecture, engineering, and construction, and is brought to you by Unanet. If you're in the architecture, engineering, or construction space, you know how critical it is to keep your projects on time, your teams aligned, your pipeline growing, and your finances in check. And that's where Unanet comes in with project-based ERP solutions, CRM solutions, and an AI growth suite built specifically for AEC firms. We're your hosts, Rihanna Dempsey and Sarah Brown. In each episode, we will connect with professionals across the AEC industry to share real stories and hard-earned wisdom. At our core, we believe that a strong, diverse workforce drives innovation and success, and that women are essential to building the future of AEC. This is more than a conversation. It is a community focused on growth and lasting impact. Let's get started. All right. Today we are speaking to Stephanie Omdoll. Stephanie is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at PPC Partners, Inc., a holding company for electrical, mechanical, and construction services firms serving the Midwest and Southeastern United States. And in her role, Stephanie leads strategic marketing, corporate communications, brand development, and community engagement initiatives to enhance the company's visibility and reputation in the commercial construction industry. With over 20 years of experience, she's recognized for fostering collaborative workplace culture, mentoring emerging talent, and driving initiatives that align brand and business growth. An incredibly influential woman. We are so
Mm.
excited to have you here today, Stephanie.
Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it and happy to be here. And it is Women in Construction Week. So I'm really excited to be here this week. So I appreciate the invitation.
It's like it was kismet.
Right?
We knew that this was a
I
special. So
love it
yes,
when a plan
well,
comes together.
that's right. That's right. And Sarah, do you want to kick us off with an icebreaker? Because I know we tend to want to jump right in, but we like icebreakers here.
We like icebreakers. We like to break the ice a little bit. So this one should be down your lane, but no
Okay.
pressure.
Okay.
Um, so if your job had a tagline like a marketing campaign, what would it be? And
Mhm.
if you can't think of one, I'll give you some time. I do have some options if you'd like to select the options.
Okay. I would say people like and this is something that leaders have told me over the course of my career, I would say. We like to tell you stuff. I don't know. Um that collaboration piece where people just feel comfortable talking to me, I think that really allows me to like keep my hand on the pulse of what's going on in our business. It allows me to inform our leaders, from the C-suite, what's going on with our employees. So keeping a pulse on things, I think, is what I would probably choose.
I like that.
I like that. That's great. I mean, I think out the gate, your career history is just very, very impressive, but you have a very strong relatability factor about you that I feel like, I mean, I've never worked for you, but I feel like very much exudes like that you can see people where they are
For sure.
to lift them
Yep.
up. And I just
Yep.
think that's great.
So while I have worked in construction for over 20 years, I do have a degree in sociology. So I've always been
Oh,
interested in what makes people tick, what people are feeling. I love reading a room. I love elevating people who sometimes don't necessarily have the type of personality or voice that I have. It takes a certain type of female, I would say, to really embrace the challenges that come with being in the construction industry. I'm not going to pretend that it's been easy because it has not been. So I think that really what really makes the companies that I've worked for successful is the people. So paying attention to how our people are doing, paying attention to how we can help them, how they can be developed, is really the secret sauce, I would say, at least in my experience. And I've been very fortunate to work for incredible organizations. So I feel privileged when, my office always has somebody coming in to talk about something or bounce an idea off of me or ask for advice or something like that. So I love it. I mean, is this something that I predicted when I chose sociology as my degree? Absolutely not. But I wouldn't change anything about it.
And that's so interesting, the number of employees that we have hired in the past, I would even say like 5 to 10 years, even when I was at other companies that have teaching backgrounds, sociology, psychology, and like, I think it just makes you such a better business person because
Yeah.
it's all about human. I mean, it's all about AI, as well, apparently, but, uh
Yeah.
it's still all about humans, and it's like, I almost feel, as in a woman in a leadership role, like, empathy is now cool, and I'm like, I was doing it before it was cool because that's just
Yeah.
kind of where I sat naturally, but it's like now companies are seeking that out because I think people realize, wow, people are the most important thing that we have, and without your people being, motivated and taken care of, it's, really easy for things to start cracking, so, um
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with the growth that's going on, I can say in our business for sure, lots of growth, rapid growth, lots of change. We all know how people feel about change.
Oh, yeah.
So, we really have to care for them. Blatant plug for our business. I mean, the tagline of our business is our people are our power. And it's absolutely true. So,
Well, I love
it's
that because the power and, oh,
I
that's
love
yeah.
that too because it's
Yeah.
clever.
empowering.
Yep.
Love it.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we mean it. So,
Well,
like I
while
said, it's
we're
incredible to work for a company that really sees the value in the people. So,
Well, and let's continue down this pathway then, because I gave a very canned, scripted intro of you, that definitely is not painting the full picture. So tell us just a bit more about your bio, and you can include, more about your work self, but also anything about your personal self that you would want to share.
sure. Self-made, went to college on my own, did it on my own, got that degree in sociology, thinking that I was going to go into, counseling or something like that. Upon graduation, it was tough to find something that was going to pay what I would have needed. I would have had to pursue a master's degree, which I wasn't really looking for more school at that
Uh
point.
huh.
Um, I had been working for our local school district in the facilities management and building and grounds department for a number of years through, my college years for summer breaks, cutting the grass, but got more involved in the actual facilities. And it's a decent sized suburb outside of Milwaukee. And really started getting involved in there was a capital referendum where the district was improving a number of the facilities, including, electrical upgrades, you name it. We were doing all sorts of things. So I put my boots on and I got out there and was getting more involved in interacting with the contractors and things like that. That was kind of my first like official step into quote unquote construction. Had been around construction growing up, uncles and things like that were in construction. So I'd been on job sites, more residential, nothing like big. So that always kind of appealed to me. I'm also a little bit of a tomboy, so um, you know, hanging around with the guys was never anything that scared me or deterred me or anything like that. I also love a good challenge and a little bit of a risk taker. So, coming out of college, a position was offered to me at the school district to help with this referendum. So kind of just fell into it, but it was also an excellent opportunity. It was a union position, great benefits, good pay, and that's kind of where it started. That was in 2001, and then worked for one of the contractors that was providing service for us. That was an electrical contractor, actually, and then kind of evolved from there. Electrical contractor, large general contractor in Milwaukee and in the Wisconsin area. Then I got married and started having little kids. 2008 came. I was pregnant with my daughter, and someone who I had reported to previously came to me who had now been like freelancing and providing owner's rep services. Said, I know we've got two young children. What's going on in the industry now, a lot of companies were laying off their marketing teams, but still needed marketing support. There was not a lot of work to be had. So all the big guys and all the little guys were competing for the same work. So the little guys, companies, I mean, who had never had a marketing department were now competing for the same work with the larger companies that had
Mm.
marketing departments or at least had more sophisticated marketing collateral and presentation. So I started freelancing that way when my kids were small, which was incredible. Had a number of clients in architecture, engineering, subcontractors, general contractors, construction managers. And that really allowed me to create more connections in the industry, and then that kind of led to the trajectory of the rest of my career. But I would say that for sure, I would not be where I am now, would not have had any of the opportunities that I had throughout that path if it wasn't for connections that I made along the way. Definitely value people who, reach out a hand and say, "Hey, I have this opportunity for you that I think might be good for your family or for you or for your career right now." Most, I would say all of those connections or allies were male, which for a man in that type of role or that type of industry to see a younger female and say, "Hey, I think that I can help this person navigate this in an industry that number one might be difficult, number two, a woman raising children." So obviously children is very important to me. I have two of them. So I've always feel fortunate that the roles that I've had throughout my career have been flexible so that I can, create that career path, but also be the best mom I can be. Um, and so I've been very fortunate. So
How old are your kids now?
So my son is about to be 20 next week, and my daughter will be 18 at the end of May. So
Oh my
we're in
gosh.
it's a very pivotal time in their lives, the whole like quarter life crisis. Who am I going to
Mhm.
be when I'm an adult now? The
That is
college admissions.
real. That quarter
It
life
is real.
crisis is real. I'm like the oldest of a bunch of younger cousins, and I sat like all of them down. I'm like, this time kind of sucks. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's really confusing. And they always talk about the midlife one, but the quarter life
Yeah.
for me was just, that was really hard. So,
Yeah,
lucky to
it
never.
is, and I have a couple of young women on my team who are kind of in that space right now, but I absolutely love mentoring and advising younger women of especially, because it's tough, I think the industry average for females is like 11% in the construction industry. Our company is a little behind that. We're doing the work to improve that. Some of the ways we've done that is we've established a women's ERG, and that came from
Nice.
our male chief people officer back in, I think it was 2019. The Women in the Workplace report came out from McKinsey, and he approached a handful of women and said, I think now is the time to start thinking about a women's ERG. And that's been incredible. From there came a mentoring program, which has been really successful. So we're really doing the work to lend a hand to the females in our industry and in our company to make sure that they feel seen and heard and valued. And it's been really rewarding to be a part of that effort.
That's an amazing story because, talking to a lot Sarah and I get to meet a lot of successful women in AEC through this, which is amazing, and you don't hear many that, like, start by putting the boots on and, like, getting so I love
Yeah.
that you and I feel my dad owns a and started a construction company, it's a family-owned. My husband works there still, so, like, construction's sort of in my blood as well, but I mean, what would you said a couple of things, and I think it's amazing when it's not just women mentoring women, right? It's like you had these males who were like, "Hey, I see some potential. I would love to help you grow that."
Mhm.
What would you say really like? what's making you stay? Because like you said, it hasn't been easy, right? It's been,
Oh, it's
you did
been
say you like
sometimes miserable.
challenges, so maybe
Yeah.
that's why. But yeah, like like why'd you stay so long, and what has been kind of the one of a benefit of sticking around in the same industry for such a long time?
Well, I think it's exciting. Um, it's competitive. So I mean, I'm a little bit of a risk taker. I like challenges. I get bored easily. I like to fix things. Um, there's tons of opportunity. I mean, also, I mean, let's not pretend that that's not part of it, right?
Yeah,
Um, and I've always had, I think it's really those allies, it is challenging, but and while I am oftentimes the only female in the room, I like it that the men that are in the room, especially now with the leadership team that we've cultivated at the company that I'm with now, we're really getting good at listening to each other and psychological safety, and really leaning into that our people are our power thing.
mhm,
So, the full circle of having that sociology degree and ending up in construction, I'm able to really leverage my construction history and experience, which started in operations,
yeah,
mind you, and then kind of started leaning into marketing, again in like 2008ish. But you know what? I like to have an impact where I can, not in a boastful way, but in a like I'm happiest when I see my team performing well and feeling proud of what they've done. I love it when also cross-functional opportunities where the estimators ask the marketing team for help. And they're like, I gotta figure this out. I don't have a creative bone in my body because I stare at spreadsheets all day.
mhm,
How can you help me with this document or with this effort or with this report so that we present the best possible product to this customer or this client or the best possible presentation of who we are as an organization to help us win this opportunity. It's the cross-functional stuff that really is exciting for me and for my marketing team. And actually the operations team too, because they're like, I never would be able to do this. For us, it's like, well, we do this every day. So you feel like it's an insurmountable challenge. For us, we're like, give it to us and let us fix it for you.
yeah,
It's fun. I think it's fun. It's hard. It's really hard, but it's fun too.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that like cross-functional piece is vital. And I think we're,
Mhm.
focusing on that internally at Unanet this year too. And it's one of my favorite coffee chat questions is how can I support you? And we have this thing at
Yep.
Unanet where you are encouraged to have a coffee chat with someone that they can be in your department, they can be new, they can have been with Unanet 15 years, and they can be on the far stretches of another department, right? It's to
Yep.
encourage those relationships. And part of the coffee chat is always personal and getting to know your coworkers, but part of it to me is always strategic in that I always ask, "How can I support you?"
Yep.
And it shocks me how often people are immediately take a little bit of a seat back because 'cause they're like, I know they're thinking, either I don't know what your role does or I have no idea how that would support me in my role. But the
Yeah.
reality is the better we are at recognizing the human pieces, those human gaps where we can connect across departmentally and problem solve,
Mhm.
which AI hasn't gotten there yet, you know, that we can really work as an all-inclusive team versus the silos where we hold our stuff together by
Oh, yeah.
ourselves and we got
Mhm.
this and work together as a whole company for a whole goal. So I love that that's a huge focus for you guys as well. It's great.
Yeah, it is. And I would say so I've been with the organization I'm with now with PPC Partners since 2018. And back then, we were very siloed. We did not have a shared services model. There was only like 3 employees at the parent company, which PPC Partners is. So at the time, I worked for one of our operating companies, Peeper Electric, which is the largest and the original, quote unquote, the OG, based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1947. And it was very siloed. The operating companies weren't talking to each other. The parent company was a little bit hands off, and part of that It goes back to our founding on the entrepreneurial spirit where, we give you the support, but we're going to be in a hands-off situation. So there was a lot of repetitive services across the operating companies and even repetitive services within the operating companies in different locations and different divisions. And over the course of time that I've been with the organization, we've really built out that shared services model. So the parent company now provides those services. So marketing, finance, IT, human resources, which is really bringing down those silos and allowing us to be more collaborative. And we're reaching from the Midwest down to the Southeast and sharing best practices. Very different cultures, as you would imagine, Midwesterners, Southeastern, and that's okay. But it's important to pay attention to that. Um, so it's been really interesting, going back to that sociology thing
It's not easy.
it, yeah, it's challenging, but it's fun. And
Yeah.
that's when that cross-functional engagement happens. And it's like, wow, my team working with our business analysts and our business intelligence team and IT to solve problems for the organization and allow our operating companies to do what's important to them and let us support them. So it's really when we have conversations, it's let us help you. A lot of times those operating companies and those leaders they go back to, well, we've always had to do this on our own and just figure it out. You don't have to do that anymore. We've got you. Let us help you. That's why we're here. And that's been fun, but it's again been challenging and it's undoing 30 years of what they had been used to doing. Um so
Well, I feel like that speaks back to the allyship, right? Just
yeah,
in a different way.
for
But
sure.
having the unique ability to relate across departmentally, across company, across branch, in addition to having those like that unique relation, piece plus the allyship of I want to give a shout out to all the men that are listening to this podcast
For
because
sure.
we need you. You mentioned a man
Yes.
started your ERG, and the inspiration for this podcast was Akshay, who's our executive vice president of AEC, and he was had a situation with a customer and was like, we need you're right, we do need to do a better job in the industry of supporting women and pulling out a chair and being an ally. And I
Hmm.
think that this podcast isn't just for women. It's very much for men. And hey, how can I be a better ally towards, those women that are in my industry where it is mostly male dominated
Yep.
and, help be that ally and that partner,
Yeah.
which helps the company as a whole.
Hmm. And that ERG when it started, it started with women. Obviously, the male chief people officer brought this to us and said, "What do you think?" And then it was females. Like he got out of the way. He gave us the support. He was the executive sponsor. And then he got out of the way and let a handful of women kind of put this thing together. And then we got to the point where we were talking about membership, and it was we need should we or should we not allow men to join? And some of the women were like, absolutely not. This is supposed to be for us. And then some of the women said, well, but we need them because there's only 8% of us in this organization. And most of the women were in, I'm going to use this term that we don't use anymore, support roles, not necessarily leadership roles. So my history and my experience to that point was like I said earlier, I would not have had any of the opportunities that I had if I didn't have a male ally. So to create this ERG in a bubble would not, I don't think, have achieved what the ultimate goal was, which was to elevate women, to give them opportunities and the thing that we heard from most women who wanted to join was, I want to be more confident. I want to be able to and this is truly how they responded in their like membership forms is, I want to be able to walk into a room and not feel intimidated because I'm the only woman and there's 12 men sitting there. That is intimidating. It certainly can be. And so from that, we definitely encouraged men to join. We helped them understand why we wanted them to join. Because
And that's important
male
too.
it is because we need their allyship. We need their mentorship. Um, we need them to help us understand what the challenges are, even in their roles, so that it humanizes us, right? To have those
Mhm.
conversations. And from that ERG, we created a mentoring program. And it was younger females who wanted to align with a male executive. And those relationships that were built from that were incredible because we had celebration at the end of each of the cohort where people cried about it. They were just so overwhelmed about the experience that they had with the CEO. And I remember this one was our male CEO was mentoring a female electrician who was like in the field. And he provided opportunities for her to present at our shareholder meeting. The people who were involved in that mentoring program really showed up. And it has grown over the course of, I think we celebrated 5 years. And now we've kind of pulled it out of the ERG and it's throughout the organization now where there's males being mentees and mentors. And it's a good mix and it's so rewarding for everybody involved. And it's been really awesome to watch that come to fruition and to achieve the goals that we set out to achieve when we created the charter in 2019. So
That's
props to our company for doing that.
Yeah, seriously, that is and it's funny the whole I feel like I always bring up Sheryl Sandberg's book Lean In because I read it at a very pivotal time in my like I was like 9 months pregnant, kind of like with my first child, like what am I going to do? I was worried about everything. And she, in there in that book, of course I'll misquote I'm not going to quote it, but generally it was like when you see like an older man and a younger man like having dinner or sitting at a bar, like you don't think anything of it. You see an older man and a younger woman sitting in a bar, and, like, the assumption is so, like, her point was there was not as much mentoring going on because people were making weird assumptions about what those so it's, like, even just getting past that challenge sometimes in people's heads historically has been difficult, but,
Yeah.
like, to your point, if most of the leadership roles are being held by men, like, we have to kinda break that down, get people comfortable, just yeah, mentorship is fine no matter, like, what the makeup is, but,
Right.
um and it's funny because we're hearing and I'm very inspired hearing individual companies doing a lot of great things. Is there anything at a
Mhm.
macro level that you feel and it's funny because you mentioned Women in Construction, and it's Women Construction Week, that's a great organization. Like, are there other macro level things that the industry could be doing to, support women? I mean, women coming into the industry to begin with, because like you said, even just all roles, it's still
Right.
very low. But then, of course, once you're in the industry, getting if you want to pursue leadership, like, what can the industry do?
Well, the fact that we're celebrating Women in Construction Week right now is one of those. The
Yeah,
fact that we're having this podcast right now is another one. And I do see that. I live in Milwaukee, and I see a lot of that, at least in the Milwaukee area, and I would assume in other parts of the country where we've got the local chapters of NAWIC, National Association of Women in Construction, which I
yeah,
think they founded Women in Construction Week. There's a lot of female-led or female-forward, organizations here in Milwaukee, that are commercial real estate based, they're construction based. I know that there are, committees within, like, the Association of General Contractors and different, like, nationwide or in some cases even global organizations that have those, committees or opportunities or different parts of their organization that elevate women in our industry. So I'm starting to see a lot more of that, which is really encouraging. And so I think that we're doing a good job, and oftentimes it isn't always led by women. Again, it goes back to the male allies that might have those ideas, like, hey, we should really pay attention to this and lean into this. So I'm encouraged by it.
that's awesome.
Should we give our final question a go?
Sure,
I'm
sure.
so
Should I be
excited about this
scared?
No. I'm so excited about just all of the places that we explored within this conversation in a very short amount of time because I feel like we very much could dig even more into this topic and expand on it. But sort of as a final wrap up question, we always like to ask, what one line of advice would you like to leave our listeners with?
Oh,
Mm, hold on to your connections. I would say connections, allyship, um, you know, I all the time, constantly, I am seeing where I'm reaching out to someone who I used to work with, or someone's reaching out to me who used to work with me. Those connections, are really important, and you never really know where they're gonna go. I mean, I think that really engaging in conversations with people that you meet in the wild, sometimes it's when you're on the clock and sometimes when you aren't, uh, lean into those and leverage those, and don't burn a bridge because you just never know. I mean, it's a small world. Our industry is a small industry. I know it's huge and we're all doing well. Oh, there's a doggy. Um,
being very
but
uncooperative
really,
right now.
it's a small world, and I think connections are really important. And don't discredit one that you don't think is really meaningful because you really never know. You just really never know. So lean into your
Excellent.
connections.
Well
Lean
said.
into your connections.
But I'm
Thank you.
also a person who has no business cards. Like, I don't walk around with business cards.
Business
I
cards a thing
never
now?
have
Don't
them
we just like tap
either.
phones to share contacts or
Yeah.
something? I feel
Yes.
Yeah.
like there's something like that.
Right.
That's yeah. I don't carry them either. I'm guilty. Um, I had to pick this. She was barking so loudly, so I'm glad that Zoom filters are a thing because she would have completely disrupted everything. She's
Well, I was worried about that on my end too. I'm surprised my dog isn't sitting in my chair with me because he usually is. So
just anything to keep her quiet at this
I
point.
get it. I get it.
Well, yeah, I could keep going as we all Sarah and I, the biggest challenge I think was the podcast is keeping it within the parameters that they want us to. So with that, we will end. And Stephanie, thank you. It was a great honor just to hear your entire journey. And we wish you just continued success and PPC continued success and good luck on, Women in Construction Week as well.
Thank you. It was great chatting with you both. Have a great rest of your day.
Yes. And we want to
You
just
too.
thank all of our groundbreakers for listening to Breaking Ground Women in AEC Leadership. And if today's podcast resonates with you, please be sure to follow, leave a review, or share it with someone in your network. And of course, if you have a story to share, send us an email. Our contact information is in the podcast bio. We would love to chat with you because we're always looking for our future guests. So until next time, keep breaking new ground.